Patrick here, episode 9, Main Street Money Show podcast, and continuing to work through the Wealth Steps order of operations. We're in the second section now, working through the little subtopics there. We're working through the income sources, and so we talked about the 4 different income sources, whether it's wages or self-employment or business ownership or investor-related, like qualified dividends, that kind of stuff. There's a lot of confusion around self-employment versus business ownership. And so one of the things that I've noticed is that individuals that are making 1099 and they're self-employed, they're a one-man shop. I like to think of it like this. A business is going to continue to make money in the event that I did not show up and go to work for myself today. So if you are a one-man shop and you're working for yourself, did the business continue to make money while you took the day off? If the answer to that question is no, it didn't make any money. I think of it differently as you are working towards becoming a business owner, where that business will continue to make money in the event that you don't show up. So whether you had managers or a sales team, that kind of stuff, you want to make sure that if you are operating a business, that business is functioning without your presence there. Especially if you're closing in on retirement and you have a business that you spent the last 35 years building. This is your baby. You want to make sure that this thing is running like a well-oiled machine, because if you let that machine start to get sloppy and you don't stay on top of your employees, don't stay on top of their employee benefits, don't stay on top of the taxes, you may wake up one day and be like, you know what, I don't want to operate this business, I want to sell it. So there's going to be a buyer that shows up and he's going to ask for all the financials, he's going to ask for all these different things. You got to stay organized through that transition out of business ownership. But if you're self-employed, so where you're just getting paid like a contract role or 1099, nobody's taking taxes out on you. That's your responsibility. So it's your responsibility to learn the tax code or pay somebody that knows the tax code that can do your taxes for you. So whether that is bookkeeping related, whether that is filing your taxes annually or making sure your quarterly taxes get paid, ultimately you are the boss, but you have to figure out how can you manage your skill set, which makes you the money in your self-employment role, but at the same time manage the time that it takes to do the business operations. So whether it's estimating new jobs or finding new help for your crews, that's on you. Nobody's going to show up and do it, because ultimately, you run the business. But that distinction between self-employment and business ownership, it's a very distinct contrast, but you have to know what you need to do to keep the wheels on the bus moving. And so for individuals that are self-employed, some of the hurdles that you have to overcome is, are there costs to your trade? Do you have to go out and buy the tools? Do you have to go out and buy, vehicles every couple years? Do you have to, pay somebody? Do you have to subcontract out your role if you're not there to do the role yourself? Learning marketing is going to be super critical to advancing you from self-employment to business ownership. Sales, operations, behind the scenes, these are all traps. These are areas that you got to learn how to navigate. And if you don't navigate them, ultimately it's going to hold you back. It's going to hold you back financially, but it's also going to hold you back with your time as well. So those are the things that once you start learning, you're going to figure out how to be in control of your time, because that's ultimately the reason why a lot of people go into self-employment and business for themselves, is they want to be more control of their time, more control of their income potential, and most likely their income will go up because the skill set they have pays higher as self-employed instead of being an employee role for the same skill set. But there are many pros to being in this position of self-employment 1099. You can do like a SEP IRA, you can do a solo 401k. There's a lot of opportunities as self-employed and a business owner that you can write off taxes. You could literally write off all of your taxes if you found the way to do it properly and legally. And I'm not talking about, illegally. I'm talking about doing it right, whether it's with a tax planner or some type of financial advisor that can come in and say, hey, here's an opportunity where you can turn this from an expense into a more structured deduction to where you're getting the deduction, but you're also getting some of your time back as well. There's pros and cons for being self-employed, but ultimately, I think it really boils down to the psychology of the individual more so than anything. Are you motivated to get up and go to work? Are you motivated to do all of the things that the business owner must do to make sure that the business keeps running? But there's different options for reducing your self-employment taxes. You can deduct your health insurance premiums. There's different disability insurance options out there. Depending on how the business is set up, you may or may not be able to deduct life insurance premiums. But making sure you have the correct retirement plan in place, especially for your employees, that's going to be crucial to keeping long-term employees on the books. Part of what I talk about in my book, Divided Money, is how to spot bad employer benefits. And so if you, the business owner, or you, the self-employed individual, if you don't set these things up correctly, and you start growing, you want to make sure you are ahead of the curve as far as your business growth. You want to make sure that you have the benefits available in place to retain top talent. If you can't retain top talent, you're going to be in the rat race of constantly finding new talent. So sometimes it's better off just put the things in place, whether it's health insurance, 401k plans, matching contributions, making sure it's a good 401k plan. These are all conversations that I have with folks outside of this podcast and flow into more advisory services. But learning these topics is critical for your growth, whether you're self-employed, headed on the path to the business owner. But we're going to get into that in the next episode, and we're going to wrap this one up for the self-employment income source in the second step of the Wealth Steps order of operations. So we'll see you on the next one.